Login accepted.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Tech Capital of the World. My name is Bobby Davis, CEO and founder of Coder Foundry. And Kevin, we got the advice everyone wants to know. What do I do in 2023?
Yeah, new year. So we thought we'd start it off with what should we look out for this year, right? Like trend.
Right, yeah. So instead of making resolutions, we're looking at trends that impact your life, you know?
Yeah.
So
particularly when you're a web dev, like what things should you look out for? Some of these things we've talked about before. Some of them maybe not. Some of them might be obvious, but some people overlook them.
I think we got some hot takes on some of them that I think is going to blow some people away, what I think about certain of them. But like,
hold on, is this where you proclaim your love for ChatGPT? Are we having you spent all Christmas and New Year playing with it, and now you love it?
Yeah, it's going to dominate the world. So like, now I was looking at one of these places, you know, how you lose weight and stuff for 2023, and like, there's this gym that wouldn't let people register on January 1. They said, "You're not serious. You can register tomorrow, but not today. We don't want those losers in here that'll leave 10 days later." It's that this elitist gym.
We don't want your business. That's kind of a weird take, isn't it?
Yeah, because you're going to quit anyway. We only want real people in here. It was kind of funny.
Wow.
So.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Well, yeah. Crazy. I see we've got a lot of people in chat, and Happy New Year to everybody.
Nice.
And
All right.
Throw up some of these up here while we're here.
We'll say hello. What's up, Bree?
Repower's here. Andy is here.
Hey, Andy.
Tazak? Hope I'm pronouncing
What's
that
up?
correctly. I'm probably butchering your name. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Clara's here. Antoine's here. Ken is here. So cool. Happy New Year, everybody. It's good to be back.
Yeah, and so we got a brand new cohort starting this week. So we got some brand new students in there. We got a good cohort then. So if you're watching this and you're on break, you're all doing great.
We allow them to have
fantastic. A break? Sometimes, yeah.
In the first week? They get a
break? Thursday at noon, they can get a break. Right on the live show.
Thursday at noon. Actually, what people don't know is if you come to the boot camp, Thursday at noon, we actually strap you to the table and make you watch
the live streams.
Like, there's a test afterwards, right? Don't we do a test?
Yeah,
we still did the afternoon test? Yeah. The afternoon
right.
Thursday test.
What was the 3 points Kevin and Bobby talked about on the live stream? So
exactly. Yeah, it's half your grade. It's half the work in the class. Like, you know.
But just a note, like we do HTML this week. There's an HTML week, kind of like British Bacon Show. We have HTML week. So like, and we gave out our Marvel test, which is a test to like build some stuff. And so this is the first cohort that I've ever seen that applied background images before we covered them.
Oh, interesting.
I just thought that was cool. I mean, like that was my note. Like, wow, okay, you got a background. We didn't have to tell them how to do that in CSS. So that's kind of cool. So either these guys knew a lot more coming in, or they're that good. And I think they're that good.
Sometimes you find there's like that one person who like knows how to thing, and then somebody will
everyone
see
else
it, and then everybody's like, everybody copies it.
Yeah.
They'll be like, "How'd you do that?" And then that person will train the other person. That's great.
Right.
We love when we see that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's great. Awesome.
So cool. We probably have a students the ChatGPT of our cohort. You know, everyone's copying his work. So.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, so we've got technically 6 trends we're talking about. So some of these might take us a minute. We don't know. We'll try and put up as many comments, and you guys have comments or questions about these things as we go through them. Throw them in chat. We'll put up as many as we can, and we'll talk about as much of this as we can.
Yeah.
We'll have a discussion as we go through this.
So here's what I want to tell you is that there's some trends here that we're going to talk about that I think are going to be buzzworthy, noteworthy. People that are going to talk about it. There's going to be some growth in these trends. But I want to tell you what I think the trend is, the most dominant trend for web development in 2023. Unfortunately, isn't something new and buzzworthy. It's just going to be full stack web development. If you watch this video and you get anything from out of it and you're trying to break into this for the first time as a career, full stack web development is what you need to be pursuing. So my advice is pick a stack that you want to code on, code some stuff in it, i.e. a big project like a bug tracker, and then show it to somebody and get hired. But only interview for jobs that matches your stack. So that could be React, could be Angular. We teach .NET here. It could be that. But all of those, that is the biggest trend that continues and it's not going to change. That growth in that area is still going to be like this.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some other things here that are like more trendy.
Yeah, trendy.
But we're going to say they're still not things that you should put your entire effort into at this point. Like we're going to talk about like, you know, AI and that kind of stuff and AR maybe down the line and things like that. While those are trending upward things, we still think right now, if you had to pick one thing, web development, full stack web dev is what it is.
Someone took over my Ring camera. Hold on, my Ring.
So
messing with
me. There's this thing. So Bobby's in an open office. Like, well, I say an open office. It's like a shared office until the new space is built, which is still under construction. It should be another month or so, right? At least for that. So that's still going on. So Bobby's in the shared space. But if you've ever used Elgato lights for your desk, you'll know that if you're on the same Wi-Fi network, you can control every single one on the Wi-Fi network. So every so often, he gets this happen where somebody turns the lights up. It's like that. You have a troll in your building. You know you do.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to troll him back. So, anyway. We'll keep going while I do this.
So our number one trend that we're picking is something that's kind of like on a trend and it's still on the way up and it's still super popular, but full stack web dev. We're saying like at this point, while some other things are trending as well, we're saying don't put all your eggs in like a Web3 basket or an AI thing or data science or any of these things. We still say if you don't know anything at this point, you need to still break in. We're still saying full stack web dev is the way to go. It's where we see the most jobs. It's why we still teach it. Don't forget, we're not telling you that because we teach it. We teach it because we see that's still a trend. When that's not a trend anymore, when AI whatever is the trend and that's the thing and that's the majority thing, we'll be teaching the AI stuff. We'll be like that's the way that we work. So people accuse us all the time, like, well, of course you're going to say that. That's what you teach. No. We teach it because that's the truth.
That's what we're getting people jobs with, and people don't know that. We try to place students here out of Coder Foundry, and so like we got to teach something that's relevant. Otherwise, it makes it really hard for us.
We're not bound by what we've done in the past, are we? I don't think people. I think people sometimes think like with this giant corporation, like us switching to something else wouldn't be possible.
No,
we could do it tomorrow. If we had
exactly.
To. I know how you work. I 100% know you're going to pick whatever's the most popular and whatever's going to get people jobs. That's what we're going to teach. So that's So it's the other way around.
Maybe my biggest fault is I'm a capitalist. Like, man, if I can get people jobs with React, that's what we're going to do. I mean, like that's what we have to do. So so let's talk about the more trendy thing that I think that I see a lot. And people are going to laugh at this one too, but I think you need to pay attention to this. So if you're out there and you're trying to break into dev, this may not be as important. But if you've been out there for a couple of years and you're coding, you got a career going, this is a trend that I need you to do. I need you to start looking at it. And you're going to be surprised when I say this, but like Blazor is going to be a thing in 2023. Like it's just going to be a thing. So like what I've noticed is the volume of people that normally weren't associated with this have like looked into Blazor, and the common thing that's come from most people is like, I know it's from Microsoft, but it's pretty cool. And they're really starting to catch on to like what it's doing. So like there's a couple of flavors here. We can throw up their website. They have a website they're building out at. So if you know what's going on inside of .NET, so like you have .NET 6 that came out. It's long-term support. It means it's support for 3 years. .NET 7 came out in November of last year. So like, just 2 months ago. And that was really all about .NET MAUI. But inside of that .NET MAUI, the Blazor team was also working on this. So like, this is the first time there's something that will run anywhere. And so Blazor components can run anywhere. So you can make a Blazor component that runs in the web, and a Blazor component, that same component can run on an iOS device, a desktop device. And there's different flavors of this, like where you can build a server-side Blazor, which is called Blazor Server. Then there's WebAssembly Blazor. Think of that as a React Angular competitor. And then you look at Blazor Native or Hybrid Blazor, where we're using things like .NET MAUI, but you can build it with web tools and then release that out to the desktops. And these desktops are like iOS, Android, Windows, and Mac OS. I don't think it's Linux desk yet. I don't think it'll ever be Linux desk, but I think the community, because it's open source, is going to build upon this. Now,
I agree.
The other thing that's happening is one of the downsides to this is interrupt. So you're like, well, I still got to write some JavaScript, and interrupt's kind of clunky, and that's kind of true. But the control vendors have adopted this too. So like crazy. So like we're writing our blog in Blazor now. So like we just finished writing our blog in Blazor server. And one of the problems that we had to run into was like, okay, we want an editor for our blog. And so what do we use? So we tried some components and had to do some interrupt and those kind of things. But then we looked at the editor that we've been using forever, MK Editor, and guess what it has? A native Blazor component. And I'm telling you, like when that's happening, that tells you that the marketplace is looking at this and they're like, okay, this is going to be a thing. Now, not every trend becomes a staple.
Right.
Full stack web development is a staple. It's more than a trend at this point. It's like I always said, the internet might just stick around. I used to tell people that all the time, like it might just stick around. We got to embrace the web. I do think that we're going to have to embrace full stack web development. That is a staple. That's something that's already here and it's going to continue. This is the trend of adoption. Like, will this be more and more jobs in 2023 versus 2022? And the answer is that 100% yes.
Yeah.
Because Microsoft is investing tons and tons of money inside of Blazor, and that is driving people to make this adoption. I'm seeing more and more job recs come out and say, you must know Blazor. We're actually placing a job right now for a company in Greensboro that has a really complex thing used. I don't want to give away who we're working for, but like they have a complex sensor array that works in the manufacturing that measures things like the inside of cans, linings, and coatings and things like that. It's a very technical engineering type thing. The software is using Blazor server.
Wow.
And implemented a year ago. And before they were totally straight up WIM forms, and now they're in this hybrid approach. And that's cool. And this is used all over the world. And and so that's just one example. What I'm seeing is like people are saying, hey, do you know anyone that knows Blazor? So what are we going to do? How are we going to say, all right, Bobby, that's a trend. What are you going to do? Well, we're going to release courseware on Learn.Go about Blazor. We're building it now because we think it's going to be a thing. So that's my first trend.
Yep. And just in general too, not just Blazor, but WebAssembly in general as well.
Yeah, WebAssembly,
even broader,
yes,
like WebAssembly.
Right.
By the way,
it's just,
T-shirt. You can get the web
yeah, exactly. But the reason that we talk about Blazor in the terms of WebAssembly is because they are the farthest along in the tooling and the infrastructure. Like they're light years ahead of everyone else that's doing. Everyone is dipping their toe into it. Microsoft is like, I mean, they're building full blown things with it now, and so like it's worked. So I think that's the problem. So Angos asked the question, does Blazor server solve SEO problems? Put his chat up there. And so what I'm going to do is later on in one of our trends, we're going to talk about this and why people are moving and moving away from things like SEO. So the problem with React is it's a single page app, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And because SEOs, if it's a single page app and they're all dynamic, it's really hard to crawl. And that's why we're going to see one of our other trends later, and we'll talk about that later. But does Blazor WebAssembly solve that? Not necessarily, because WebAssembly does the same thing React does. It runs all on a single page. And
it's the fact that it's a single page is the issue that makes it.
That's the problem. It's not the framework. It's not the framework. So, yeah. But Blazor Server is different. Blazor Server is a little bit different, where it's a more of a multi-page server-side framework. So they have two flavors of this framework: client-side framework called Blazor WebAssembly, and then a server-side framework called Blazor Server, and it communicates to the front end without forms like traditional server-side frameworks using Signal R. So you get this approach where I can make things just push to the screen instead of me having to post a form and get results and come back. So it's Blazor Server is kind of cool, and that's what we're going to build the Blazor blog. We're calling it Blazor blog. We'll build we've built that out inside of Blazor Server over the Christmas holidays. It's really cool. So
nice. Okay, third thing on our trend list. Then we're going down this list quick, but this one's going to take a minute because this one is AI. When we talk about AI, we're talking about ChatGPT. We're talking about GPT-4. DALL-E, all of these things that we saw peak towards the end of 2022, and we see that trend continuing into 2023 and through 2023. But
so here's what we think the trend is. Like, is this going to be the most talked about thing in our circle from 2023? Probably.
Probably. At least initially, here it is.
There is one down our list that would trump everything, and like AI will look like the thing. That's so dated. That's so last week. So but here's what I think about AI. Number one, there's tools coming out here. Here's what you need to understand. OpenAI is the company that makes ChatGPT. That is bought and controlled and funded by Microsoft. You have to understand, this isn't just this guy out there that's just like, hey, look at this cool thing I built. I mean, I forget the investment. Was the investment billions or billion?
I don't know. I'm not sure. But here's the story I read yesterday.
Yeah. So Copilot, GitHub Copilot is funded by OpenAI or built by OpenAI. Microsoft, I think they've put $1 billion in OpenAI. They own a majority stake.
They own a massive chunk of it, I don't know if it tells you in the story how much they own, but it's a big chunk.
It's a big stake. And they'll probably buy the whole thing later. And so what happens with this is, when you think about how big companies work, and this is what I think they're doing.
There you go, $1 billion.
$1 billion. So that's a B. With B.
That is a B.
So I think they don't want to own it all right now, because then you come into these conflicts of interest and
well, it still has these should I, shouldn't I? Is it good for mankind? Is it bad for mankind thing happening? And Microsoft doesn't want to be associated with it. Yeah,
exactly. So it's kind of like the mafia. They're like where they own the restaurant, but they don't own the restaurant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they fund it, but like my name's not on the door. That's OpenAI doing that stuff. So if something goes wrong here, they can distance themselves from it. But they do own it. And so that's where you see GitHub Copilot coming out, where it predicts code and helps you write code. ChatGPT comes out where you have this interface, and we're going to talk about interfaces here in a second, where the interface allows you to type stuff in and gives you results. One thing that everyone went nuts with over the last month, it's only been out for a month, is like, oh, this thing will write code for you. It'll code for you, the end of developers. And so I want to talk about, we've made videos on this, but my thinking hasn't evolved on it. But like the things that I can't express all the time, when we had a conversation today, like this is really my problem with it, is if you go back and you look at the history of development, and you go back to the late 70s, the late 80s, and things like that, when I was in college in the late 80s, we were learning things like Fortran and assembler still, and COBOL.
Yeah. Very low-level languages.
Lower level languages than we are today. And then from the 90s, we abstracted away from that. And so the abstraction with, things like language like VB, Power Builder, all these what they called 4GLs, fourth generation languages, were abstracted away from the hardware. So you didn't have to know things about the CPU instruction set.
Yeah. It seemed more like English, didn't it? It seemed more like you're writing
English
something in
yeah. It's not as cryptic. And so, everyone was saying, well, that's cool. That's amazing. More people can become coders. And that's exactly what happened. More people became coders. It wasn't guys in lab coats running around. In fact, the first time my dad, when I was a young programmer, came to my office to see where I worked, and I was in my 20s or whatever, he goes, "Where's your white lab coat?" I'm like, "What are you talking about, man? Like, what do you mean we don't wear white lab coats? I wear T-shirts to work." And he goes, awesome. "Yeah, but all the pictures he had seen in his life were like big rooms of computers, like that. And I had this beige box on my desk, that was coding." And so we abstracted away from that. And from that abstraction, we created new languages. Here's what I think is going to happen with AI ultimately. And this is why it won't replace developers, and why the promise of this will be underdelivered. There's going to be a promise of AI and what they think is going to happen. And every time I watch someone try to build something with ChatGPT, and they're like, "Hey, I built this website in Angular." When you really look into it, they had to know a lot about Angular just to get it to do what it did, Right. And it looks cool on the front. It's like, and we've said this before, it's a really good magic trick. It looks cool.
Yeah.
I was watching an AI thing on the Joe Rogan show, the podcast. They were talking about AI, and this brilliant guy was talking about AI and whatever. And then he started talking about coding, and I realized, like, oh, you've never coded before. Because and he's smarter than I am by like a long stretch, but in the realm of coding, I don't think he understands like how things are built, how things put together.
Because if you don't understand it and you ask it to
it looks
create
great.
A function to do something, it feels like magic, doesn't it?
It feels like magic.
It comes back to our analogy about, like, we've talked about this a lot, but Penn and Teller watching a bad magician, they're like, that sucks. But the average person watching a bad magician is like, wow, that's absolute magic. It's literal magic. It seems like, how did he do that?
Right. And
Trained
so
eye.
like, I mean, I think they have a trained eye. So like, so here's what I think's going to happen in the trend. Number one, people are going to talk about ChatGPT to drive engagement on their YouTube channels. We're going to do it, drive engagement on their AI. They're going to do these things, and they're going to use images to create thumbnails. And we were looking at a thumbnail before, and I don't want to, because he's my friend. Can we show it? He made it public, right?
We can show it. Yeah. We can show it.
We can show it. All right.
So we were just talking about this. No. Because he just released this video right before we came on here. I was just like, hey, no. Hold on.
So full disclosure, number one, I like Joe. Okay. I do like Joe. And I think he's in a lot of ways a lot better than us. Why does he go live the same time we do? I don't know, man. Get off my hour, dude.
He's not live now, is he? He's not live. He's not live. He's fine. He put this out 50 minutes ago.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, this was an AI generated card, right? I haven't watched this video yet. We haven't had a chance to.
No, I haven't watched it. But it's got 7 fingers. Like, it's when you start looking at
That's
it. That's
why I like this. It's so weird. It's just so weird. I wish I could blow it up a bit bigger. But it's so weird that it's cool. Like, it's just.
Yeah.
But I agree. It's not going to
You can't look at the card. You can just look at the card. Anyway, so that's AI. So, like, is AI going to dominate YouTube cards? The answer is no, because you're going to get cards like this. It's just not. It's just weird. And it doesn't look weird. It's a look weird. But anyway, I love Joe. Coding Phase is great. Go follow and watch him.
I'm definitely going to create more AI cards though, because I think I've tried. I told you I tried that other video we did. I tried to make an AI card, and it was like so bad. I was like, it's unusable. Yeah, we showed it on stream, but it was like,
Yeah. So here's what I want people to understand. Here's where I think this is going to go. So the promise of AI says it's going to replace coders, and coders won't have jobs, and we'll do something else. And so when you look at the history of coding in general, modern development, the abstractions come around and they have the promise of producing simplicity.
Yeah.
And parts of that's true. We don't have to move register around assembly anymore. And the act of coding is a little more simple, more accessible. But the things we create became a lot more complex.
Yes.
And so when you look at like 91 websites in issue of like 1991 to 97 to whatever, and what could you build with an HTML document versus what you have to know to really roll out a website today? Oh, it's a lot more. Like CSS, we can do animation with CSS. There's like frameworks around CSS. There's HTML has achieved a lot more. I mean, back in 97, what was the most important thing? The marquee tag or the blink tag.
The blink tag.
Look at this. It rolls across the screen, Mom. That's about what you could do. You had GeoCities. You had all these things that you look at the sites and they were terrible. So the complexity increased on the other end of it. So it was simpler to make these things sort of, but the complexity, the things that we had to build, they had to build on top of these abstractions to be able to produce the things that we wanted to do.
Right.
And so here's what I think is going to happen. I think that the abstractions will increase. So the best case scenario I think we have for AI right now is in the coding realm, okay, is that, and I think where Microsoft's going to go with this, and I don't work there, so I don't know, but if you use this, you can send me money if you figure this out. But I think Visual Studio will come out with a trained AI based in and around the language of C# or even maybe a low-level language like WebAssembly or something super low, something like that. And then the language will change from C# to markup.
Right.
And so you're not going to try to build a site with a chatbot. It's just like the interface is terrible. It's once you get to a thing that's complex, you got 80 people working on it and you're all trying to make this with a chatbot. It's impossible. You can't do that way. And then when you see the amount of verbose instructions that you have to give the chatbot to produce it, I mean, why do we have functional languages? So that we can make things more concise and smaller. And I don't want to type that much. I mean, you see people now trying to build an inventory systems and they're writing War and Peace in the top of this chatbot.
Well, plus also their understanding
and it doesn't work.
Had to be. Well, their understanding initially had to be really high too, to be able to push that in there, to be able to try and get it to spit out what they want it to spit out.
Yeah. So the question is, will Visual Studio evolve to where they'll say you can write all your code with Markdown? And the question will be for us as coders, as developers, is do we want to use Markdown to write code? Right. And so the thing that I find funny about that's weird about AI is I can make a video that JavaScript's going to die and people want to like run me out of town. But in the same breath, those same people will say, well, AI is going to reduce coders. Well, if coders go away, guess what else goes away? JavaScript.
Right.
So like, I mean, like there has to be this thing about like where it's going to go. So I think the abstractions will maybe increase where we have a tool that generates the code for us, but we still have to know a lot about systems, a lot about logic, a lot about how things are put together to be able to generate that for it. And the question is going to be, is it just quicker to code it in C# or JavaScript or Python? Or is it quicker to code it in Markdown? Because I promise you, it's going to be more verbose on that abstraction level. It won't be as concise as what we're doing. And that's where the marketplace of ideas and the marketplace of things, people go, it's nice, but I can just code it up. The second thing it's going to generate is a black box. So let's say that we're using Markdown inside of Visual Studio or whatever. It's going to generate our black box of code that just runs and executes. And so the first iterations of that, you'll have to break into the box to be able to change it. So even if they build this magical tool that can do it, you're going to need to adjust what it generates. Now, you can say readjust or whatever, but if you don't know what it's generating, you can't see what it's generating, it's going to be really hard to detect bugs or whatever and debug it and things like that. And the bug doesn't always happen at the point of development. The bug happens when you roll it out and then something happens and you're like, oh, what is that thing doing? Like, and if you don't understand that or have a way to do it, and all you can do is ask questions to the AI, then I just don't know if it'll ever get to where it needs to be. So there's a lot of questions in here. So like, let's put them in there.
I was just going to say, I was just going to say first, I think that AI, just to kind of summarize that, I think that AI is firstly, it's a tool for developers. It does not replace developers. I'll put up a comment in here in a second that somebody says it's going to replace. It's never going to replace developers. I'll tell you why. Yeah. Because you can never tell it. You cannot tell it to produce an application. You can't say produce an iPhone application to a dating application. It doesn't know the complexities of that, right? But what you can do is it can be a tool, like you've said, where you can use markup that says, hey, write me a function that connects two people in this database. And it can write that. Yeah. You can then use that and you can add that to your application and you can use that. That's using like a form of markup, using like regular English language to produce something technical. I think that's its actual use.
Yeah, and I think too, when you really think about developers, the skill set required to do that is going to be the same that it is today.
Yeah, you still have to understand the structure, how it works.
Yeah, the structure, how
there's a lot more complex than just writing the words in a line.
Right. And while it can figure out maybe some complex algorithms or like, hey, improve itself or whatever, I think people need to understand that when you see people using this to make it, they're writing really verbose, like paragraphs and paragraphs of text that tell exactly what to do and exactly what to do. That takes a deep understanding of how these things are put together in the first place. And so like, programmers there.
This guy's got a lot of opinions on this.
I'm not.
There's got a lot of opinions on this. Here's the other thing that you maybe haven't thought about. So one thing that we haven't talked about yet is you can't see the forest through the trees. Here's the other thing we haven't talked about with Chat GPT or AI in general is regulation. Right. Regulation is going to kill it. No question in my mind. Even because
they're already started.
All this stuff,
the EU's already started.
Regulation will kill it.
Yeah. So here's what I'm saying is I am not looking at the final form. I'm actually predicting like what I think could happen. What I'm telling you is like we change the language. We have to input information into it for it to generate anything. AI will never go out and go, you know what we really need? We need a Salesforce competitor. And these are the 10 reasons why this one will be better than the other one. And it generates the website, it generates the advertising, it generates everything. It comes up with a brand new idea, and then it goes out and does customer acquisition for you. Like, it's just not going to happen. So what happens really in the real world is someone has 10 or 12 customers on a really small CRM that they built, and then they're like, man, we could really blow this up. And they have a couple of meetings, and they're like, well, what's the killer feature? And they build that killer feature and they put it in there. Now, could you use AI to assist you in that? Yeah, you could. But I think the ultimate thing is going to be is like, how fast can you do it? And is it really convenient to do it that way? Or would you rather just do it? There's a reason why trains aren't rolled around all across the country. it seems like public transportation should be ever. It makes sense. Why do you have to buy your own car? It makes sense. Okay. People do it in New York. Okay. Well, it doesn't work in North Carolina. Why? Because to get to your house from my house, it's like a complicated web of network of roads and things and like that. And it's just really difficult to like make a train that could get there.
There's other things that aren't technical. Sure, you can have a train that's door to door. It's not a technical problem to fix.
Yeah. And the second thing is, do we want to write 35 paragraphs of like English language for it to generate code, or is it just simpler to write the code to begin with? And I think that's where the usability is. I saw a tweet the other day. He says his tweet was, well, at least I tried. And he showed his chat GPT thing. It was like, you can't even see my arms. It was like this long, it's like, and he said, I tried to tell it what I wanted. It just it couldn't get there. And it was like this really kind of complex scenario where you could have just wrote it, and that's where I think simplicity may overwhelm AI anyway.
Let's talk about the regulation thing for a second again. Just back to that real quick. Just because here's two places that I think regulation is going to kill AI. There's two sides to this. Firstly, it's never going to be allowed there'll be regulation in implementation, right? And what I mean by that is they're not going to allow AI to make life or death decisions. Let's say that in healthcare, there's an AI implementation in healthcare you could use where it can make a decision about somebody's like, do we resuscitate this person or not, kind of thing, or whatever. They're just going to regulate that so that they're not going to allow that to happen. I just know that's going to be a thing. There's going to be instances where they regulate it in that term. There's also going to be regulation in the information that it is fed, because you can bias feed an AI. The chat GPT right now is biased because it's used the internet. The internet's not all true.
Society's going to say, do we want all of our knowledge about everything coming from one company, Microsoft?
Right.
And I'm accused of being a Microsoft fanboy, and I'm telling you right now, the answer to that is unequivocally no.
Right.
We want Google to have a voice in there. We want other guys to have a voice in there. Even Mark Zuckerberg could have a voice in there. Twitter, Elon, like Microsoft, all of these. But we don't want one search engine that rules them all. We don't want that. That's the source of our knowledge. Now, there's probably some globalists that would love that, as long as they control it.
Right.
But the problem is no one's going to control it. I mean, Europe was going to have, we want to have our own AI. Okay, great. So I think what you'll see is segmentation in the technology will be segmented. And what I'm saying is that Microsoft will roll out probably a Visual Studio later down the road. I'm thinking 5 or 10 years from now, that change the language and it uses AI to generate the code to run against the computer, on the bytecode, and it doesn't become more complex. My question is, how verbose is that new code versus, a C# or an F# or a JavaScript or a Python? And then how good is it?
Yeah,
it could be worked out, but still, like, what's going to happen is you got to understand, like, it's going to be like, okay, you want to make a loop. This is how you make a loop in markup, It's like, we were making loops in C#. We've been making loops forever. Maybe you don't have to understand what a loop is anymore. You just say, iterate over blah, 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 blah collection and, give me the average of the sales figures for the month, and then you put it in there and then it writes the actual algorithm that does that, connects to the database, makes, so I can see that where what I'm saying is I don't think it's in its final form. The thing that I know is not going to happen is where it just is making up code and just making apps and releasing them on the store without any intervention from people.
Right.
It's not going to be Skynet.
That's the point. I think that's the point. It doesn't replace developers. What happens is the job of a developer changes. Just like the job of a developer at one point was punching in cards. Right? It literally was at the beginning was punching cards.
Yeah.
But that job has now changed. The developer's job is to do something else, but it's still to give the machine instructions in a different.
Right. You have to always give the machine instructions because it needs to be fed. And think about this. All of human knowledge can't be fed into these things. I mean, so we have to feed it on a regular basis for it to keep up with what we're doing. And so imagine it trying to build a Blazor app right now. It probably couldn't even approach it yet because it hasn't been trained in that yet. Imagine it trying to use .NET 7 for something right now. It doesn't have any knowledge of .NET 6 or 7 right now in ChatGPT. It has to be trained. So it's always going to be lagging behind what I would say true creativity and true inspiration. And so it's always going to copy or be derivative of things that have already preceded before. Now, we as humans, yes, we're copying things, and it's true. There's nothing new under the sun, really. I mean, like, but there are some true innovations and true things that happen that people go like, wow, why didn't I think of that? That's a good idea. And that's where the human brain, and we were talking about this in our meeting, is like, we have these subtle things that come into us that we don't even have, our perceptions and emotion, what I call emotional intelligence, where we just have this thing, we call it the gut feeling. That's probably going to work. Me and you do that on the whole, we'll make a video and like, that's going to work. And they're like, why?
Yeah.
And we can't explain it why. We're just like, well, there's
feels right.
It just feels right. And there's this emotional intelligence that we have, this very subtle inputs from us. And that could be our friends, families, the environment that we're in, the things we read, the movies we watched, we're exposed to all that. And that influences our decision making. And AI can't do that. It's always going to be artificial and just copy things. And you can look at that card from DALL-E 2 or whatever. He's got 7 fingers. Why would you ever draw a human with 7 fingers? You wouldn't. They have 5. You can draw an alien with 7 fingers, but that's clearly not an alien. It's a dude that looks like an actor in some armor from Lord of the Rings, and he's putting out dollar bills. I don't know why an armored guy is putting out dollar bills.
Well, I don't know what prompt he gave it. That's the
I know, yeah.
The edit, so I don't know. We'll have to watch the video. I'll definitely watch your video, Joe, if you watch this. Mm-hmm. I do want to watch it afterwards. But the other thing we haven't talked about here too, besides like that could what was I going to say that could block this too, is we talked about regulation already.
Yeah.
I can't remember what my other point was now. Just totally lost it.
That's okay. I like Eric Bruce's comment here. He says, the last one, will we be paid the same writing Markdown?
Oh, okay. Good question.
Okay. That's a great question. Is it going to become so simple that everyone can do it? And here's what I want you to understand, Eric. There's going to be people that are really good at writing Markdown. They're going to be brilliant at this, and they're going to do things that is like crazy good. Okay. And you can call them a prompt engineer, or you can call them whatever you want to call them. Maybe the name changes, developer name changes to something else. They're going to be crazy good at this, and they're going to be paid exceptionally well to do this, because not everyone can think logically about things. I have worked in enough businesses, from the largest corporations to, one of the largest banks in the world, to in my own startup, and have met people that are super talented at what they do. But when you get down to like the technology things and trying to figure things out, how things should work and how put together, it's hard working with some of these guys because they just don't understand it. They can't think of it in these terms, and they have other skills and they bring other things to the table. But like, man, the technology side is like, whew, it goes right over their head. They just don't why doesn't that work? I remember I was in a meeting at a really large corporation with the guy that I work for, and we're writing a really large website. And he says, just add a switch to it. I'm like, what do you mean? Like a light switch? What are you talking about? Just a switch. And it was just like, he was using words and like things. And I'm like, what are you like? I was really trying to understand. What are you talking about? It was a comment about nothing, and like, it was just like, and that's what happens in these worlds. And that's why developers, people that think logically and know how systems work and can put them together and can really think these things, will always be paid well. Just like your plumber, I know it's not most glamorous, is paid exceptionally well, because
too much.
Number one, they will do the work. And number two, they know how to do the work to solve the bigger problems.
Exactly.
I look at this like, there will be handymen out there, the handymans can come out and hang your television, but he's not going to build a room onto your house or build your house. He can't do that. And I do think there'll be levels of engineers in this, just like there is today. Some people are pretty good at it. Some people are fantastic at it. Some people are exceptional at it. And those exceptional people and the pretty good people are paid really well. And then there's some people that you can't teach them development no matter how long you spend with them. They can't learn it. Yep. It doesn't mean they're dumb. It just means that they think in a different way, and they're better suited for other things. Maybe they don't have an interest in it. They don't really like it. So they're not going to spend the time to learn it. So I think they're always going to be paid well.
This comment reminded me of my other point. So it doesn't just copy; it literally recreates every pixel from scratch. AI art doesn't just copy images. kind of true, but not really, because the way the AI currently works, it has to be fed. You have to feed it source. Therefore, it copies the source. Here's what's going to happen. If you asked AI today, right, to create me a really good can design for a cola that I'm going to market, right? The AI, I guarantee you, it would look at the average of everything and it would say, well, a red can with white writing on it is a great design for a can because I know that sells well based on the information that I have. Well, guess who's going to sue you for the can design? Coca-Cola. Copyright is going to be an issue with the information that is fed into AI. That was my point about it getting regulated on the inbound side about bias. It's also not just going to be bias. It's also going to be, do I as a person consent to my image being fed to the AI, to my intellectual property being fed to the AI? And the answer is going to be no. Coca-Cola doesn't want their can design in the AI for other people to say, well, it's AI generated. That wasn't me. That wasn't me. The AI did it. The AI did it. Therefore, I'm not responsible. But trust me, a red can with white writing on it, if you ever put that out, Coca-Cola's going to sue you.
Yeah. So let's say that technically, and this guy's arguing it, technically the AI is creating it pixel by pixel. Okay. But I'm telling you right now, there's an article, and you can look at Zyra of the Dawn, and you can go look at it. I may send you this link, Kevin. You can put it up. Let me just chat it to you. And if you look at this image, it looks exactly almost identical to an actress named Zendaya. So like it's just not.
You don't know what you're talking about here, dude. I'm telling you right now. This is just it is generated. I agree with that, but it has to be fed something to generate it. It's not magic. It is not. Don't believe that it's magic. Don't believe that it's sentient. That it has a thought process. It doesn't.
Yeah. So the one things that we do see, like, let's say we make this approach to it. Let's say that ChatGPT, we're going to use it to create blog articles. All right. And so like we use it to generate blog articles. Now, neither one of us are fantastic blog article writers. When I say fantastic, we're not up here. There's people that can really kind of write something that sings and it's sweet and you read it and like, wow, that's amazing what you did there. Now, can we put together 5 paragraphs of text? Yeah, we can do that. So if we get AI to generate a blog article for us, we might look at it and go, that's pretty slick. I couldn't have done that on my own.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But a blog article copywriter would look at that and go, that's junk. And the reason that your AI will be generated stuff will be derivative is because it'll be perceived as junk because there'll be the humans out there that always outclass it because it's learning from the humans that write real stuff. I mean, I don't think AI could ever generate a story that could compete with the mind of Stephen King. It can write things like what Stephen King would produce.
You can actually ask it to write something like Stephen King.
But like if you compare it to like, and you objectively looked at it and said, hey, is that as good as The Shining? No. Not in a million years. No, it's not as good. Like it's not as good. And you can take other authors out that, and so like, will someone out there go, I'm going to generate a novel from AI? And they're like, yeah, okay, it did. I'm seeing one won an award with the AI generated art. I get it. It can happen, but it's like, it's not as good as what a human can do. Now, a lot of people out there want to tell you that it's going to be great, that it's going to supersede us, that the world is going to end, and we're going to sit back and do nothing. And I think that's a mistake for you as someone that wants to put their place and find their mark in the world and be a thing out there. It's still going to be good to know how to do stuff, including coding. And we are far, 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 far away from being able to really replace the development staff. And I don't think it'll ever get there. And then there's things like, should we do this or could it do it? I mean, so like, could it do it? Maybe. And the answer is, do I want to do it that way? Like, it's not very convenient. I got to write a lot of prose. But this thing out there, we're just saying that it's just going to take over and generate everything. It just doesn't really work. In fact, in all the Terminator movies, we eventually beat the Terminator in every movie. It always dies, because ultimately when you really look at it, it's kind of dumb. I mean, like it just walks in a straight line and doesn't stop, and that's the scary thing about it, that you can't really hurt it or it takes a lot of damage. But the dumb part of it is, it's just dumb. It just marches towards its goal and doesn't change. It doesn't really think. Yeah, maybe it's liquid metal. I get it. The the dark fate one that no one saw, but like, it's it's a problem. Neither did anyone else. So like, that's the problem. So yeah.
Is that the one that went back to all the? They had the original actors back in that one. Was that one?
No, they had a lot of like the Lady Terminator, and then they brought back Arnold Schwarzenegger was in it, and it's called Dark Fate.
I think that's okay. Yeah. I think
it completely bombed.
I remember it, but I didn't watch it. Or maybe I did watch it, and it's so unmemorable.
Yeah.
I don't remember it. Okay, we could talk about AI for maybe we'll do a whole video about AI.
The final thing is like I see a lot of other there. When you can do it. But like I saw today, and I just want you to avoid this like the plague. I'm just trying to help you out here. But when you say how to make millions of dollars with ChatGPT today, it's just people trying to drive engagement. I mean, it's not going to do that. And then now I'm starting to see my trading algorithms driven by ChatGPT make millions of dollars. Don't do that.
It has that Web3 scammy.
It does. So like, remember NFTs, and some of you probably own the blue gorillas or whatever. They're not worth much today. So like,
we made one for educational purposes, just so we didn't cash in on this thing. We made educational purposes.
We lost $5 when we sold
it. We lost money on the thing. So yeah, cost us more to mint it and put it together than it did when we sold it for. But the point of our exercise was to just for educational purposes,
understand how it worked. But I do think understanding and knowledge and skill is still going to be highly valued in the marketplace for the perceivable future. A lot of people want you to believe that AI is going to take over the world to influence you, so you won't do the things to become this job. So it's like a gatekeeper mentality. Like you don't even need a developer. You just not quit doing it. So I've had parents tell me that aren't all web dev jobs going to be farmed out to India anyway? Remember that discussion?
Yeah, that's been a thing for
everything's going to be offshore.
A decade at least.
Yeah, here we are, and guess what? The offshore people are working. The onshore people are working. The people in South America are working. People everywhere is building. Everyone's doing it. That wants to do it. So like, it's not going to end. I mean, and we see these, and we said Web3 is going to take over. And what we try to explain to people, Web3 is just a subset of actual web development. Can you build smart contracts? Yeah. Is it going to dominate development? Not 1,000 years. Like, you're not going to build everything on Ethereum. You're just not going to do it. There's
not the
reasons
right use
why.
Case, is it? Yeah.
No, and it has this variable cost to it. It's dumb when you start really thinking about it. Yeah. Technically, can you do it? Yeah. It's kind of slow and expensive, but like you can do it. I mean, it's possible. Yeah. Is it just as easy to put up a SQL database? Yes.
Exactly.
Does everything have to be decentralized? No.
Yeah. Do the gains outweigh the effort you need to put into it? And no. They don't. So.
No. So anyway, so that's our thoughts on that. I do think people are going to talk about it. We're going to continue to talk about it.
Yeah, it's going to be a trend for 2023.
I'm interested in it. I'm not like get off my lawn guy, and I'm going to annoy.
I'm definitely interested in it. Yeah. I'm definitely interested in it. I think it's fascinating, very, very much so.
But it's not going to replace developer jobs. And so if you're thinking about should I break into development 2023, absolutely, 100%. ChatGPT isn't going to do it. 4 is not going to do it. I mean, it's just not going to happen. And if it does, and I'm wrong, well, guess what? We'll do other jobs, like when cars came out and blacksmiths, they went to the factory, and we had the Industrial Revolution and things happened, but the jobs may change. But people that have knowledge and skill and dedication will always be valued in the marketplace, and you'll never do it. So right now, dude, become a full stack web dev. You can do it. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Let's go through our last points here. The next one I put in kind of a funny one, but has a point. And it was a trend for 2023, at least 52 new JavaScript frameworks. And I put 52 because why not have one a week? Because that seems to be where we're headed with JavaScript frameworks.
Yeah. So I think, here's what I think, and this is related to AI and other kind of things. Like JavaScript will continue to be fragmented. I do see there's a trend going towards server side on JavaScript instead of just pure client side. I do think that if you talk to people, JavaScript people, and you can talk to me because I'm biased, but go talk to someone like a Wes Boss or someone that's really deep into Angular. They're going to tell you that, everything on the client side, I don't like that anymore. And that's why there's things like Next.js and more advancements inside of Node, because they want to run things on the server side. And we don't want to run things because things like security and server-side frameworks are better. We are seeing, I don't know, we may jump ahead, but we're going to talk about here that because it's related to JavaScript SPA frameworks like React, Angular, there's a lot of talk where that's becoming out of favor, and we're flipping back to like multi-page frameworks because of things like SEO, easier to develop, security's better. Like there's a lot of things that we've been saying for like 15 years, but like, that circle is coming back to what I call MPA, like a multi-page framework. So you're going to see that rise in popularity. And it's not like they ever went away. I mean, server-side
they've always been there.
Apps have been server-side forever.
We just saw a spike in these single-page apps.
Yeah, right.
With React and such. So.
Yeah. So like when it scales and it goes over to really big and complex, there are a lot of people and a lot of people smarter than me. They're saying, you know what, maybe we should run this on the server, or maybe this page should be generated on the server versus totally dynamic on the client. And you'll end up with a hybrid, and everyone's going to do a lot of different things. So it won't like flip all the way that way. But I do think that's another trend that you'll see where a lot of people in the JavaScript realms are saying, let's get there. And it's going to continue to be fragmented, continue to have new frameworks come out. That's going to be a thing. So if you're a JavaScript developer, that's the name of the game. How do I stay current? And
exactly.
Like it's constantly evolving. And the reason is because the framework itself and JavaScript itself isn't settled on like what it can do and what it needs to do. And these frameworks take years to develop. That's why I always laugh like, man, why use C#? That's been out for 20 years. I'm like, well, no, that's a good thing. I mean, you don't want your language that was made last week.
And it's not the same thing it was finished. 20 years ago either. Exactly.
No, it's not.
It's evolved. It's evolved
yeah,
a lot.
Exactly. And so like when you see server side come back around, and it is become more popular, people talk about it, that's when you see where you really start looking into what is Microsoft doing? What are they investing in? Web APIs. That's what they call their REST services framework, and they made a minimal one so it's easier and less ceremony to set up. I mean, so like they're investing in the server side stuff because they know that once you start building big enterprise apps, it has to run on the server. You can't run everything on the client, namely security being the big one. But that there's other reasons too, and it makes it simpler to build things. So I think you'll see that continue fragmentation in the JavaScript framework. Doesn't mean it's bad. Just means if you're going that route, just know that's the name of the game there.
And as a beginner, it's difficult to kind of find the starting point.
So what I would say is, if you don't believe me about .NET and you want to get into JavaScript, go for it, but pick React or Angular right now. Just pick one of those.
Don't chase the latest, greatest thing.
Don't chase the latest thing, and then Next.js or Node or something like that. Pick one of those. Write some server-side JavaScript. I think is the best thing you can do, and then write some client-side JavaScript and build apps and build an app that you can show people. I'm not saying those frameworks don't have value. They do. Obviously, people are paying to do them. I just think that my advice is pick one thing, interview for those jobs that are using that thing, and get a job doing that. And I think you can make a living as a developer quicker by doing that instead of like being all over the board. And I'm learning lots of things and not building on one thing. So I think that's my advice here.
Okay, let's talk about our fifth thing. We've talked about this quite a bit over 2022, but AR, VR, MR, all-encompassing XR, whatever you want to call it.
Okay, this is the one that we say for last because, like, as much as we talked about AI, this is the one area that would make AI say, "Oh, that's so last week. You were just worried about ChatGPT. Let me talk to you about this." So, if these headsets come out, and if you read the rumors, which we're reading rumors now, so we're on Mac rumors. There's a Meta rumors, and so we're trying to understand like where these going. Number one that we know for a fact. Facebook is investing the entire company's future on this VR thing. He's like Mark Zuckerberg. You can say he's a drunk gambler, on a Mississippi riverboat, but he's pushing all of his chips in there, $10 billion, and people are resisting it, saying this is where this is going. So is he right or is he wrong? I don't know. But for 2023, they have a VR device that we call the Meta 3 and something that's going to come after it. But they also have another device. And if you look closely at his last reveal, it was last year, he says, what you're seeing is an AR device, but I'm not going to show you that device yet.
Yeah, it wasn't prime
I'll show you what it can do. I think it's because it was in its final form factor and it was probably ugly and it probably had wires hanging out of it or something like that, like something like Mad Science or Weird Science. So, he's got a helmet on his head. I don't know what it all was, but in general, here's what's going to happen eventually. And let me say it could happen. here's what they're trying to do. They're trying to take a pair of glasses like this, and they're trying to put cameras in them. And those cameras can see the world, and then they want overlays in these lenses. Now, we've already seen something similar to this from Ray-Ban. So Ray-Ban Stories, with a partnership with Meta,
the camera
is
side of
doing
it,
something like that. They've got sound, they got Bose speakers in it, and you got sound. So when you think about it, it seems far-fetched, but does the technology currently exist in a form that this could happen? Yeah. We know how to build mobile devices. Okay, already we have miniaturized CPUs already. We already have a way to wirelessly transmit HDMI. We already have that kind of thing. So there's a lot of things that already exist. They just gotta make it smaller, so it's more attractive. So what should you do for 2023? Here's the technology behind this. That if you're going to get into this game, is Android mobile development will drive what I would call the lower tech AR devices, like the Ray-Ban Stories. Like if you're going to build an app for that, the screen is going to be limited. You're building mobile apps on that.
Yep.
And you have to learn how to do that. But pretty much, if you can build an Android mobile application, that's the skill set you're going to need to do it. Then we can look at the Apple device and the Meta device. That's more traditional game development. Unity, C# over there. And that's where you're going to build things that work in there. So like if you already got an AR goggles and you're playing Population 1, that's the type of experience you're going to do. So, but it doesn't have mass adoption. Everyone's saying that it doesn't have mass adoption. The same guy that's telling me I'm not looking at the Fauna Forum will say AR sucks and it's not going to do it. I throw up every time I put my glasses on. That's true. I get it. But if these devices come out specifically, and this is what I think me and you agree, Kevin.
Yep, 100%.
If an Apple device comes out specifically, that brand, that name comes out, and it's attractive, which nothing they've made ever been ugly, and it's small, and you can wear it, that's a new device, and that is going to push for 10 years.
That's going to push AR into mainstream. Yep, the screen shift that will push the screen shift. I think I think Apple is probably the one that's going to do it. We know they have it. We know it's just when it's going to release. If it is 2023 or not, I don't know. But if it is 2023, this is when we see the screen shift. And I liken this same screen shift to the mobile screen shift when the iPhone came out. It's when the iPhone came out, this will be the same thing. There will be a literal gold rush to make applications on this device. No question.
No question.
That just will be.
If I had to say, and I'm going to put all my eggs into the gold rush basket. I'm moving to California. I'm going to go dig for some gold. That's a bold move. Am I boldly moving towards AI, or I'm boldly moving to AR, VR? I'm boldly moving to AR and VR, if you want to know. Now, none of those are guaranteed, but I think there's more of a chance that we've been saying this for a long time, though. I mean, I've been saying this when I get asked to come to a college campus. This is what I talk about. Like, the screen shift's coming. I don't know exactly the date when it's coming, but like AR, augmented reality, which is an overlay in the real world, is the next screen that's going to come. When that shift happens, you'll be able to create new companies, new opportunities, and you'll be able to build things. That AR will build upon Unity or Android mobile development. In the case of Apple, it could be a new OS. Probably. So if it's a new OS, it'll be a new dev kit and a new tooling, and you'll have to know how to do that. But
it'll be built on what they're already using, by the way. It'll still use it'll still be Xcode based or whatever. It'll still use similar language they already use. It'll just be a new way to deliver.
And you could think I'm crazy, but you got to realize, what has Apple done? They said, no, Intel, we don't want you to make chips for us anymore. We're going to make our own chip. And the M1 and the M2 came out and dazzled people. I don't think it was so they can make another Mac Studio like the one I'm running. They did. It's amazing.
Not their end
game. Really fast. That's not their end game. It's so they can control the form factor to put it in something like this. So they can make it smaller. Now, what we think will happen in the first release is you'll have a belt and it'll have the device on it. Or it could just be an iPhone.
I think it's the phone.
Yeah, it could be.
I have a sneaky feeling the phone is the processor.
And then there's a wireless technology between that and this thing that transmits the video signal, and so you're like, wireless HDMI, does that exist? Yep, it does. It's got to get smaller, but it does exist. I mean, I've seen it. Low latency wireless. Now, if you think I'm crazy, go Google this right now and go look at low latency wireless televisions for gaming, and they do exist. Are they stupid expensive? Yeah, but low latency gaming for wireless HDMI does exist. Now, how latency does the device have to be up here down there? And I don't even think it has to. We're not talking about like, Call of Duty in your glasses where you play it in real time. But so serving up an ad to you doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be the fastest thing ever. So I don't even think that's really going to be a concern as long as it's relatively fast. It doesn't have to be millisecond fast. It can be, 50 millisecond fast, not 8. So like, I think you're going to see that coming down this year.
Somebody mentioned the price of these being prohibitive. Now, my answer to that is
yes.
The iPhone price was also prohibitive. When it came out, I think it was like $400, $600 something. It was expensive when it came out, right?
I remember when it came out.
And I was in line to buy one. There was a line around the block. Yeah. I was one of hundreds of people in line to buy one. I bought a phone this year that was almost $1,500 for a phone. Imagine telling somebody a decade ago that you would spend $1,500 on a phone. You'd be like, you're insane. That's stupid. Why would you do that? Thousands, if not, hundreds of thousands, literally, have bought these phones.
Millions.
The flagship phones. Exactly. Flagship phones sell millions. The price is not the prohibitive thing. It's just not. There's plenty of rich people out there that can afford them.
And there's plenty of people that are in middle income, or above average income, like we would be. I'm not a millionaire or 100 millionaire or anything like that, but like I can afford an iPhone. Right. I have disposable income. I mean, hopefully, that's why I'm doing this Coder Foundry thing, so I can buy a car.
I will. I will totally be in line when this thing comes out.
Yeah. No, and I was going to tell you a true story. I remember I was in Cortex early days. Cortex, I had another graphic designer that was working for me at that time, a guy named Evan. And I can remember when the iPhone came out, and he took the day off to go wait in line for it. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, and I'm a tech guy. I'm like, he says, dude, you can surf the web on this. I'm like it's 4 inches wide. Like, why would I ever do that? Like, I'm not going to do that. I was wrong on that. And so like now I look for these screen shifts now because I know that I missed the boat on that screen shift. And you're probably thinking you're the same thing about AI, Bobby. You're not seeing it. I am seeing it. I'm just telling you that this AR and VR is the thing that could drive the next $1 billion company. Someone's going to build something that we didn't know we need, that we have to have. And the reason we have to have it is because it's in a glass that we wear every day.
I agree. I think it gets mass adoption through a killer app, right? That's the other thing that it does. It doesn't just take the release of the hardware. It's going to be some kind of killer application that people is like a have to have. Like the phone was surfing the internet on your phone, right? Was the thing.
That's what it was.
You could do it before on those Windows phones, but it was terrible. The experience was disgusting. It was so bad. So the iPhone kind of fixed that. This will need a killer app, and I think it's something to do with AR navigation or AR overlay of the world. It's something
context
to do with
sensitive.
It's context. It's something along those lines that'll make people want to have it. So when you're walking down the street, you can see Starbucks and you see the menu that's there, and you see you click a button on your screen or you tell it, you have a voice come out of you and you say, "Hey, order me a latte," and and you walk in and pick up the latte. That's going to be kind of the killer implementation.
I could see you could walk in Starbucks and it would show your order ready right there as you walk in.
Yeah.
And so maybe you're, and so you're like, oh, I'm going to go get it now. It's ready.
Yep.
That's kind of stuff. Or, translucent video calls over here on the left-hand side. You're walking down the street.
As you're walking around. There's some kind of killer app that everybody's going to want to have. It's the equivalent of the internet on your phone. It's like it's this killer app, and it's going to be the thing. I don't know what that's going to be. It could be an app that comes with the thing. It could be something Apple's created. It could be a feature of the headset itself. But it could also be something that a third party makes. Yeah,
and the other thing that'll drive it isn't like it'll be voice driven. So like that's another thing, another skill that you can pick up is like voice. Even though there's investments in Siri is going away, Amazon may kill their thing. But the voice control of devices isn't going anywhere. It's just that for whatever reason, people aren't using that Alexa thing as much. And that's why they're kind of like trimming that back at Amazon. People are still going to the website. And that's what I keep saying about AI. I keep driving back to this. It doesn't matter how cool it is. Will people, is it convenient and is it easy to use? And will developers adopt it? Yeah. Adoption's always the key to all of these things. It doesn't matter if it can solve the world's problems. If no one uses it, it won't do it. So it's like vitamins are great for us. Do we take them? No, I don't do it. Like, why? I just don't. I forget. But it's really good for you. It could keep you from getting COVID. Yeah, whatever. Okay, I'll take my chances. So adoption is always the key in all of these things. And I do think AR has the more chance to be broadly adopted versus something like AI, which will be in certain corners of techie people that are trying to generate things, or maybe a marketing department that generates copy for their website or something like that. So,
yep. Yep. I know we're a little bit over, but one last thing. The one last thing was that we're going to see a trend is no code, low code.
Yeah. No, actually, before we get to that, Ridge Raider has a thing here that I want you to talk about. We actually talked about this on the way, and we forgot about that. The plot twist one. I think that's funny.
Plot twist: rear-facing camera, so you can see what's going on behind you. Also, attached by the glass. Oh, geez. Oh, we did talk about this morning.
Yes,
yeah, we're talking.
It's
like,
funny.
What if somebody was following you? Like,
Ridge Raiders is listening on our conversations, man. I think he's a spy. I said, it's going to be the end of Bourne. Like the Bourne identity can never sneak up on you and get you from behind.
This is actually a mix of AI and AR, isn't it? Because it's exactly. The AI could recognize the face, but what if you're constantly walking around and your headset or whatever you're wearing happens to notice the same person 50 times in the last 2 days? You get an alert that says, "Hey, this person's kind of following you around."
Stranger danger,
Stranger danger.
Kind
of interesting.
Like your kid is going to school and then some stranger danger who's a pedophile is like looking at your kid and it's like they ask
has some security
dad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I've got your picture full. Stay away from my kid.
Kind of interesting.
So I think those are kind of cool. So I think that rear facing cameras, forward facing cameras, see if someone's following you or what's going on behind you. I think that's definitely a thing, man. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Okay, so last thing was low code, no code. Definitely going to be a trend. I think there's a kind of misconception about this as well, saying that you can hand a no code tool to anybody and they make an app. So why do you need a developer anymore? Yeah, I'll tell you what. Give it a shot. Try it. See what happens.
Yeah, give Airtable to your mom that doesn't know how to code and say, "Hey, can you build me some stuff to track my sales?"
Yeah. Good luck.
Good luck with that. It'll be a mess. And that's what I keep saying about AI. When we look at low code, no code, you got to remember it was 8 years ago where they're saying, all these web builders are going to replace web developers. And I'm like, the abstraction went up. The complexity of the things that we need to build also went up. And there's things you can't build with Squarespace, man.
Right.
And second, if you're not a designer, you can't use Squarespace. Like,
well, you can, and you'll make something that's disgusting.
It makes it bad, So and then even then, when you're like, you get something beyond like, I want this form to do something special. Yeah, there's we use some integrations to the forms, but all the time it's like us trying to like round peg square hole.
Oh yeah, we're totally shoehorning something into 100%.
Does it get into Airtable? Yes. Okay, Bobby, can you write code for that?
Exactly.
Does it
but
work?
Only under this.
Okay.
Exactly. It works, but only under this certain scenario where you put it's like Again, you've got to be technical to use the tools and to integrate them and to make it work. Still, you're still a form of developer, just like when you use Squarespace. Like I've had people pay me to make Squarespace sites because it's just not in their skill set.
It's not. It never will be.
It's just not in their skill set. It's not something they do. It's not something they understand. You've got to be somewhat technical. So it's still a form of development. Even if you're not writing at the lowest level, it's still a form of development. Even using low code, no code tools.
And then so that's when I say the word AI says it's going to replace developers. I'm like, well, for certain things, but like the complexity always goes out. So with front page, you'll never have to make a website ever again. How many web developing builders are there out there now? Squarespace comes out, it's done. Well, then Wix comes out 2 years later. Oh, okay, we got our flavor on it. And there's a lot of these out there. So no code, low code will come out there. Solutions will still be out there. I mean, a low code solution is also things like Microsoft Access.
Right.
I remember working at a very prominent health and benefits and welfare company, and the health and welfare people, we build insurance things, got Access, and then they started putting all their stuff in Access. And I remember this specifically having a meeting, and they're like, dude, we have 10 million rows in this Access database. Can you fix it? I'm like, you have how many in Access? And they're like, yeah, it goes down every day and we are constantly rebuilding it. I'm like, I know you can't put 10 million rows in Access.
Wasn't built
what
for
are we
that.
doing? Like, why is the company based on this? What are we doing? So we have to put that, at the time we were using Sybase. You have to put it in Sybase or SQL Server, like you can't. And so we had to transition this from the low code tool, put it in a real database, and then write screens on top of it. So it ended up where the developer had to fix it. And that's usually what happens with low code. It starts out small, and then it becomes this hairy mess. If you ever worked in a bank and you see them using Excel, you're like, and you're a coder, you're like, what are y'all doing? Like what is this? Like this spreadsheet talks to that spreadsheet.
Yeah, and it's extremely complex, isn't it, too?
Yeah,
it's
and that spreadsheet's
setup.
in a shared folder that everyone's changing. Yes. Okay. What happens when the guy makes a change you don't want to do? Our thing breaks. So the mortgage company can't deliver mortgages if someone messes. I was going to say a cuss word, messes around with this spreadsheet. Yeah.
And we joke about this, but we know this happens. We know this is like the state of the world right now. So
exactly. So this is the problem with AI. You know, you're sitting there trying to type in 20, 25 paragraphs to make it fix something when it, you know, like, and the boss is breathing down your neck. You know.
Yep. So, let me just put this one comment real quick, and it's okay. We can totally disagree about this stuff. We're not that's good, and I hope you're not offended by our disagreement with you either, because we're not offended by yours. It's okay. No, we can have discussions around this stuff. None of us know what's actually going to happen with this stuff, so we're all just like speculating. So it's like, it's all healthy discussion.
I am curious though, when you say my opinion is going to change, I am curious, what is your outlook in years on this? Is it 1 year or 20? Or 10 or somewhere in between?
I guess it depends on what you're aiming for, right?
This guy, his name is like OXFTF, you know, so it's a bit. I'm just curious what your outlook is. Like, when is this massive adoption going to change? And then it's going to just wreck the industry that we see, you know, if that's what you're saying.
Yep. Okay, so those were our, we'll wait on that.
If you got it, just put it in there. I'm just curious what your outlook is.
It's not there yet.
Know.
But those are our trends for 2023. So
yeah, that's it, man.
Full stack dev, WebAssembly, AI, love it or hate it. Again, we don't hate it, but
we don't hate it. It's just I think the promise, it's going to underdeliver on that promise.
JavaScript fragmentation is going to continue. AR, VR, maybe. And when it does happen, you need to be on the front foot for that one.
If you want to,
when that killer headset comes out, you want to be in the gold rush. Trust me, it's going to be a thing.
Yeah.
And then no code loco is going to continue for this year.
Yeah, it's going to continue on. So mainly, what we want to say, the thing that's set in stone for sure right now is learn how to be a web dev. I mean, like, if you know how to code and you know how to build things, all of these things can be accessible to you. When it changes, you can be there when it happens, and you can take advantage of it. You know, if the AR thing happens and you make the next Flappy Birds, go for it, man. You know, that's what we want. And I think our advice in general, and we're not really mad. We make fun. We kind of like act like we're like really opinionated about it. We kind of are, but like in general, we can be friends. But like Red Red's just having to learn Cold Fusion again. Yeah. Yeah, that's one of those frameworks like, we're going to make our own HTML tags. That's a good idea. Really?
Yeah. No.
That was a bad idea, so it didn't work out. So
is that a Microsoft product?
No, I don't think so.
Is it not? Okay.
I think it was. I don't know who made Cold Fusion. I don't know. Maybe Adobe ended up owning it one day or something like that.
I thought a big platform owned. Yeah, Adobe owns it.
Yeah. And see, they didn't win that war either. You know, all those things. You know, Dreamweaver. You know, I called it Dreamkiller, but like Dreamweaver is going to take over the world. It's not. I mean, it never did. Flash is going to take over the world until it didn't. You know, like, and it did for a minute, and then it was gone. And so, like, these things do change and they do shift on you. But I say learning web development right now is the one thing that you can do guaranteed that that's going to be something in demand for this year and the foreseeable years in the future. So don't believe people that says AI is going to come and take your job. It's just not going to happen. The job may change. The skill set, the language that you input code in will change, but AI isn't going to replace it.
There you go. I put this up. 5 years, 2030 will be very, very powerful as hardware improves.
Okay. 5 years from now, we'll see it. All right.
Come back in 5 years. And
we'll come back in 5 years and we'll see what's up, man.
It'd be interesting. I think we are going to see advancements in it for sure. And it's going to I personally, my take on it is that regulation kills it. That's my thinking on it.
Yeah.
I just have this feeling that the EU are already talking about this regulation around it anyway. So it's like, I know that's a regional thing, but
You know,
and they're heavy on that stuff, but
yeah, the EU hasn't seen a thing they don't want to regulate yet.
They haven't. No, they haven't. But they're kind of the leaders in that area, and I think a lot of people do take influence from them. So we'll see.
They're saying you can't put Google fonts on a page; you're damaging people. It's
right?
Like, okay,
seems extreme.
Okay. Slow your roll there, EU. Come on, man. You know, it's like I'm just trying to. I just want to use Railway. I mean, I just want to use the font Railway. You know, you're saying I can't.
Yeah.
Geez.
Yeah.
Okay, I won't use a CDN.
So hopefully that was interesting.
I hope you've had fun, and we had fun with you.
Fun talking about it. Yeah.
Glad you like us, and keep following us. And if we offended you about AI, it's okay, man. Like, you know, we can still be friends. We'll see what happens.
Set the AI on us. All right.
Yeah. No, I can promise you, man. I will shift on these things. I'm not going to be a dinosaur. Even if I go to live to the age of 90, you'll probably see me still like trying to because I'm just constantly evolving, and I like to learn these new things. So like, I'm really kind of psyched what the future holds for us.
Oh yeah.
And I just think the things that we can build will get better and more complex. And it's always going to be for people that know how to do this will win. So I just want you to win. So learn how to do it.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, guys. Keep coding. Don't believe it. Keep coding.
Oh, I like that one. That's a good one. We should use that one from now on as the sign out.
Don't believe it.
AI.
Keep coding. Keep coding. We'll see you later.
We'll catch you guys later.